The death toll is nearly 240 since President de Klerk imposed a state of emergency 3 weeks ago. De Klerk and ANC chief Nelson Mandela have been working together trying to contain the pre-election violence. Still, at the same time, they are running against each other in a struggle for the soul of a new South Africa. News coverage of the campaign has been dominated by the violence, but both Mandela and de Klerk insist there's something bigger going on, that the elections will be a historic turning point for their nation. The country's hopes for peace and unity center on the two indispensable men of South African politics. President F.W. de Klerk, running as head of the once all-white National Party.
I say, ladies and gentlemen, we are working for a prize, a wonderful prize.
How are you doing?
And Nelson Mandela, still rising early according to his old prison routine, who met us yesterday in Cape Town for a pre-breakfast interview.
My assistant called this morning at 6 o'clock. He said, "Good morning. Nelson Mandela's already been up for 2 hours."
The leader of the African National Congress is almost certain to be elected president of this country, long gripped by violence.
There has been violence in this country since 1984. But look at the fantastic progress that we've made. In spite of the violence, in 10 days' time, we vote for a government of our choice.
F.W. de Klerk, who was once Mandela's jailer, is likely to end up as Mandela's vice president.
This is where the inauguration will take place.
Now, when that happens, Mr. President, when the inauguration of the next president happens down here, and what will you be thinking that day if it turns out that it's the country's first black president?
It will be the beginning. Now I will be thinking constructively. We need economic success, new wealth, from which will flow more homes, better schools, more clinics, more jobs.
Many of South Africa's most needy citizens live in big city squatter camps.
No toilets, no water.
Most here who suffered under white rule pin their hopes for change on a black president.
I think we will get a better houses.
Squatter camps, like this one outside Durban, present a challenge to any new government. All across South Africa, black unemployment is 40%. In the camps, up to 90% have no work at all.
If our economy is going to grow, there must be industrial peace in our country.
To encourage business, Nelson Mandela appears ready to renounce the labor strikes and job actions that were so effective in fighting apartheid.
We have won the vote now, and therefore there is no need for mass action, because continuing with mass action is going to interfere with our development program.
For F.W. de Klerk, who set his nation on a course that will lead to a loss of white power, there is no regret.
No, because if we did not take those initiatives, then 1 year after I became president, I believe this country would have become a Bosnia.
Mr. de Klerk is a big man. We have had a lot of quarrels, but he has earned my respect, because at the end of that exchange, we can stretch our hand, hold them, sit down and drink coffee and forget.
But Mandela remains bitter about black-on-black violence, which he says de Klerk tolerates for political gain.
The political base of the ANC is Africans. This violence is taking place amongst Africans, and he is not keen to stop it.
The grand old man of South Africa's black revolution will take into office lessons from 27 years spent in prison.
It gave you the opportunity to think, to stand away from yourself. And I always look back at that period with fond memories, in spite of the harsh experiences that we had.
Nelson Mandela will be allowed to vote for the first time in his life a week from tomorrow. I'll have more on-scene reports this week on the countdown to democracy in South Africa.